Hey y'all, it's Brittany Andrea here. Welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to come on here and talk about something that I'm currently experiencing and have currently experienced, and I've also heard a lot of people talking about it. Um, but I wanted to come on and talk about some differentiations and some things that you might not know about this. So yeah, we can get right into it. So today I'm going to be talking about what I'm sure some of you have heard before: season of isolation. Okay, so what I have come to learn, right, and this is just from my own like understanding and experiencing, and also as well as talking to other people, kind of validating my experiences. But you have a season of isolation, right? And then you also have a season of solitude. And they're two very different things. So let's get into it. What I believe a season of isolation is that season that you go into after a very traumatic event or after years of survival mode, and then basically deciding that you want something different and stepping out of that survival mode and wanting to get to a point where you're thriving. So whether that's like leaving a relationship, leaving, your family home, moving, cities, or just any type of event that causes some type of pain, or there was long-term pain in the past that you're stepping away from, like a very big transition in your life. A lot of times after that follows a season of isolation. Okay, I had my own season of isolation after a 7-year relationship, to the father of my children, who I was engaged to at the time. So after that, I went to a season of isolation, almost 2 years, a little bit over 2 years ago. So I want to talk about the difference between a season of isolation and a season of solitude. So now, a season of solitude is a little bit different than a season of isolation. Okay, so when you're in your season of solitude, it looks a lot different. It's like usually your season of solitude comes from on the other end. It's like coming out the other end of the season of isolation. Okay, so we can start off with what a season of isolation looks like. So a lot of times, season of isolation, like I said, is when you're moving through a traumatic event or attempting to, or you made a very big transition in your life. You're going from trying to survive to thrive. And what a lot of people don't understand is that when you're trying to survive to thrive, you don't just go from surviving to thriving. There is this medium point where you have to shed a lot of your old skin, and you have to shed a lot of the old ways of being and the old ways of thinking, and all of these unhelpful things that you can't take with you on your journey to your ideal self. And so that in between stage is what I like to call a season of isolation. In your season of isolation, it's a lot of listening to God. It's a lot of sitting with yourself. It's a lot of allowing yourself to feel whatever comes up. Okay. And so when I say feeling whatever comes up, anger, resentment, sadness, um, you know, whatever comes up in this season, you'll find a lot of times that you don't trust a lot of people anymore. And that not only do you not trust a lot of people, you really stick to yourself. You're kind of fearful of creating new friendships and new uh, relationships. But in this season of isolation, a lot of times you do still tend to try to move back to what you were once used to. Okay, so moving back to what you were wanting because it's comfortable. It's more comfortable than the season of isolation. So you'll still have moments where you're going back and you're trying to seek validation from other people. If men were a vice of yours, you may go back and you may try to still, go back to similar situations with new guys or older guys. You may, just do behaviors. You'll still be doing behaviors that are not in alignment with where you want to go. But the difference is when you stepped out of that survival mode, now that you're in a season of isolation, you are aware. So you'll be watching yourself. It's like you're up in the cloud watching yourself. You are very aware that you're doing these things, and you're able to now really track and process what it looks like, and if it's helpful or if it's not. So in the season of isolation, you're really just healing from trauma. And I like to say you're monitoring your habits. You're not trying to change yourself per se. You're just observing. Because, and this is what a lot of people have told me. This is, I feel like, what God leads you to do. Like when I was in my season of isolation, I was trying to move into that season of thriving, and I was being so hard on myself because I was still making some of the same mistakes, and I wasn't motivated to, you know, do the things I know I had learned in my season of isolation that I needed to do. And so finally, like, I heard pretty much God say, like, yeah, you observe, you see the things that you need to work on, but right now I just need you to sit with this. I don't need you to try to, you know, move forward by fixing these things. I need you to sit with this. I need you to rest, basically. And so in the season of isolation, a lot of it is resting. I literally was going to work, taking care of my children, and every now and again I would try to fit in some type of something to just make myself feel like I was alive, like I was Brittany again. And in that season as well, like I said, I was going back to old things that I thought were going to make me feel better, because I hadn't quite learned what would make me feel better. I just knew, you know, I seen these habits of mine that I know I needed to change, but I didn't know how to do that. And I also didn't understand that changing those habits would be what makes me feel better. And I knew it wasn't time yet for me to do that, right? So I was going back. I was going back to looking for, guys that made me feel like, feeling like if I had a relationship, I would feel better. Or being on social media and trying to get, validation from that. Or let's say being a people pleaser. And like I said, I was observing myself during this time. So I knew, I was very aware of how these things made me feel. Right. So yeah. And sorry, I'm just looking through my notes because I don't want to forget anything. Um, During a season of isolation, you might find yourself, getting your lower tier needs met, the needs like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You may find yourself needing to, get a job, get a place to stay, maybe get a vehicle, like these things that bring you stability. You might find yourself being able to do those things, right? And moving towards those things, not super extensive, huge goals, just your basic needs, right? So for me, I got a job because before that I was a stay-at-home mom for almost 8 years. And then after that, I moved in with my parents, and then all my focus then went to trying to, well, not all of my focus, because there was a time where, like I said, I was going back to what I was used to, like, okay, what's going to make me feel better? How am I going to, get out of this? But eventually I got me an apartment, right? That season of isolation for me, I did not trust a lot of people. Um, I did not really talk to my friends a lot. I really stayed to myself. I listened to myself. I allowed myself to feel. Towards the tail end of it, I started journaling more. Um, I did do TikTok, and I used TikTok as like a way to get my feelings out. And then, yeah, one day I felt like I was ready to take a lot of the stuff that I've learned and a lot of the things that I observed about myself that I knew needed to be let go of. I felt like I was ready. And once I got into my new apartment and I felt that sense of liberation and freedom, I realized it was time. So that is when I shifted into my season of solitude. Okay. So, season of isolation is a time of healing as well. But season of isolation is more so, like I like to say, shadow work. A lot is being revealed to you about yourself. You're usually naturally called into your season of isolation, and you want to fight it, which hence is why you tend to go back to things that you used to do in the past. But if you sit with it, and you sit with your emotions and you allow yourself to feel all the things that come up, and you document that and you process that, then you really start to become aware of yourself, and you really start to understand what you need to do in order to move forward in your life and to align with the person that you would like to be or where you're trying to go, right? And that's what I ended up doing. So, like I said, once I got into my apartment, I shifted into, unbeknownst to me, a season of solitude. Now, season of solitude is different. Season of solitude is more like a liberated self, right? You're still in this on this journey of healing, but you're not so much fearful of meeting people or trying new things, or you know just putting yourself out there. You're not so much fearful of those things anymore. You actually start to feel more like yourself, right? So some of that pain has shedded off of you. Some of that hurt, some of that, resentment has shedded off of you. So you're starting to feel like your old self again. Like, one thing I've noticed for me in my season of isolation, no matter what, no matter what, it was very hard for me to get back into like my old hobbies and stuff like that. I just didn't feel like myself at all. Like, I felt like a shell of myself. So when I was trying to do those things, it felt like I was forcing it, and I didn't like it. So eventually I just stopped. And like I said, I felt like God was calling me to just rest, okay, and observe and be. And that's what I did. Just allow myself to be. Just allow myself to feel what I need to feel in that moment, right? Because people don't tell you, it's like when you're coming out of a long-term history of trauma, pain, whatever it is that you went through, it takes a while to get on the other side of that. That's not going to be a quick turnover thing, right? So I had to sit and just heal and just allow myself to be and feel those things, right? So yeah. So when I got into my season of solitude, I felt more up to trying to do the things that I used to do, and as well as taking on new things. So like I started like coloring by number. When I would go out, it wasn't just like to the club anymore. Events, meeting up with friends again, traveling, like things that I was kind of fearful and just not even feeling up to doing because I didn't feel like myself. I was there again. In this season, you're gonna take the things that you learned while you were in your season of isolation, the, the things that you learned about yourself. I'm sorry, y'all, my kids. I'm listening to my kids. The things that you learned about yourselves, the habits that you know, observed that are not helpful, that are not aligned with where you're trying to go. The things that you know need to be changed or bettered, you're going to actually start actively working on those things. So it's like now that you're out of that season of isolation and you feel like you're liberated self again, like you feel more like a better version of yourself, you'll find that you're going to start trying to work on those things. So for me, I'm working on my organization every day. I'm working on my health. I'm eating better. Um, and it's baby steps. I'm not doing all of this all at once. Like, I'm literally taking little things and I'm working on them week by week. I'm not expecting myself to work out 4 or 5 times a week. I'm just trying to do my mini stepper 3 times a week. Can I stick to that for 15 minutes? You know what I mean? Like, things that I was just not could not work on then because I did not feel motivated. Because the thing about it is, in the season of isolation, I didn't see my future. I had an idea of like what I wanted for myself, but I was not hopeful for it. When I came to the end of the season of isolation, I felt more hopeful. I felt more optimistic. I could actually plan out a clear future for me, my dreams and my goals. You know what I mean? They had came back because I was feeling more like myself. In your season of isolation, sometimes you might feel like, you're broken. Your spirit has been broken. And that's usually, you know what I'm saying? When that happens, you tend to not feel hopeful and excited about the future. So yeah, I started working on the things that I knew I needed to change, because the person that I want to become cannot be she can't be super unorganized. The person I need to be can't be completely out of shape. I have 3 children I got to run around and I plan on having a very active lifestyle, traveling and, for my job and doing other things. So I need to be moving my body and get used to moving my body. Um, I want to pass down healthy eating habits to my kids. So these are something that so all of these things I'm working on little by little at a time. I'm not doing all the things in my season of solitude. There's times where I'm tempted, like, yeah, well, I would love to take a trip here, or, you know, go to this party or go to this event. But in my season of solitude, it's very important for me now to focus. Seasons of solitude requires it's really about focusing on becoming that better version of yourself, or at least moving, the goalposts, like not the goalposts, but moving towards her more and more. So there's a lot of focus for me in this season. This season, when I have free time, I'm trying to study, because no matter how hard I tried in my season of isolation, every time I tried to study for my exam to become a therapist, I could not do it. I had so much gunk and garbage and just like unhelpful thoughts about myself, as well as all the distractions that were taking place, the men, the social media, the thoughts and opinions of other people. I had all that stuff going on so much in my head that I could not sit and retain any information to focus enough to study. So now that I'm in my season of solitude, I've cut off the social media. I cut off the men for the most part. I might have a few guys I might text here and there, but that's it. Like, there's no expectations or anything. I've cut off the things that I needed to cut off so that I can focus, so that there's nothing in my head but me, really God, and the people that are close to me who are also validating my vision and things that I want for myself, right? So I'm working on the things that I need to change in the season of isolation. I'm very focused. There's a lot of focus, and you feel more motivated to do it. It's a lot easier to do it in this season. In the season of solitude, you'll find yourself working towards more bigger goals and being okay with taking smaller steps to get there. In the season of isolation, you might want to work on big goals, but you'll find yourself becoming very frustrated with yourself and maybe even shaming yourself and feeling guilty because you're having a hard time, even knowing where to start. Okay. So that's the difference there. Let's see. I don't want to forget anything. In your season of isolation, you're more okay with meeting new people, but you have a lot more discernment about who should be in your space. So like season of solitude, I'm sorry. So season of isolation, you might not met a whole bunch of people. Like people might probably thought like, dang, is she depressed? Like, is she, antisocial? You just wasn't feeling it because you needed to heal. You know what I mean? But in this season, you might meet up more people and be more open to it because you're more like your old self, but you have more discernment now of who actually needs to be in your space because you know more about yourself and you know about what you need in order to, maintain a healthy state of being and not ever go back to that place that you were in when you were, in survival mode, right? Because you don't want to have to go through that again. So yeah, in season of isolation, you might look towards other people for validation. In season of solitude, you're validating yourself, and you're validating yourself by facing your fears, doing things that you never thought you could do, seeing yourself overcome obstacles that you struggled to overcome before. I'm, feeling more and more confident every day simply because I see myself becoming more organized. I'm getting more work done at home, at my job. You know what I mean? I'm pushing myself when it comes to like my workouts. I'm pushing myself when it comes to my studies. I'm retaining stuff and learning stuff and interested in what I'm studying now. So, that stuff gives me confidence. It makes me feel more amped for the future, makes me feel more hopeful and feel like the future is like, and it's not that I'm wanting to not be in the present because I'm very present because I'm observing myself in these moments. But I know that the woman that I want to become is within reach now. It's not how it used to be. So yeah. So season of solitude, you really just following God's orders that you gained basically when you was in your season of isolation. Okay. Um, you saw yourself like, dang, I could really, I don't know, be better with setting boundaries, or I could really, figure out how to keep my house cleaner. I could really be better with, parenting my children, or whatever it may be. You're observing all these things, you're watching yourself move through life. You're very present in your season of solitude. You're taking those things on. You feel like you have the wherewithal and the strength and the courage to take those things off. And you're validating yourself in the season because you're doing so many things that you once thought that you couldn't. I used to tell people all the time, like, I am not an organized person. And am I still not the most organized person? Absolutely not. But I realized that I just needed to focus. I needed to shed all that old skin and that trauma and that pain and that dead weight of, people not, you know, believing in me, and I'm waiting for them to believe in me. I needed to shed all of that and get to a place where I'm to myself and I can hear God and I'm not distracted. And I realized I absolutely can do it. I can. I can, figure out how to work out when my kids are here. I can figure out how to be more organized. I can figure out how to be more productive. There's so much, right? So those are the differences between season of isolation versus season of solitude. I would like to know if you leave a comment and let me know, are you currently in your season of isolation? Are you currently in your season of solitude? Or have you experienced either one? But yep, that's the video, y'all. Monday's tomorrow, and I am going to get me and my children ready for hopefully what is going to be a productive week. So like, share, and comment if you feel this, okay? And make sure to subscribe too. Like, I just started this video. I would love to have a few this channel, I'm sorry. I would love to have a few subscribers, especially people who I'm like-minded with. So peace.